Our story starts with a boy who has shut himself off from the world to escape the relentless bullying that he faces every day. As he lays in his bed, scrolling on Reddit with no future plans and no aspirations, a bright light suddenly shines from his phone. He is greeted by a goddess with a huge personality who congratulates him on being selected to reincarnate into a new world. He now realizes that he must have died in his room and ended up here. The goddess cuts straight to the chase and tells him that she'll give him a cheap power to make his life easy in the new world. She must feel bad that he ended up as a shut-in his last life. The guy takes it all in and declares that there is only one thing he wants in his next life, for it to be peaceful. He still wants to be a shut-in, just without the bullying part. So he agrees to be reincarnated. He wakes up as a baby, and a king is standing above him, happy to have such a healthy boy. The king praises the boy for being so healthy and having the well mark on his chest. But then they measure his magic power. The king thinks that his power should be really high since he is a royal, maybe 40 or 50. But once it is measured, the orb only shows a power level of 2, and he has no attributes except barrier magic. So it seems that the boy was born with low magic capabilities. But his parents should still love him, right? Nope. They are worried about their image as royals for giving birth to such a weak baby, and just like that, they make plans to throw the baby. Looks like this guy can't catch a break. He was reincarnated into a new world only for him to speedrun life. Meanwhile, the goddess is panicking that they are about to throw the baby. She gave him a cheat power, but they misunderstood it. She actually gave him a magic power of 1002, but the measurements they use can only show 2 digits. So he's going to be killed on a misunderstanding. The baby has been left in the forest, and he cannot move since he's a baby. He tries to think of a plan for his survival and remembers that the measurements said he could use barrier magic. He starts imagining a barrier, and light begins to congregate above him. Finally, a box is formed in the air. He remarks that magic is actually pretty easy to use, so he plays around with its capabilities. He is able to change its size, shape, and color. He is also able to apply it to himself and levitate. So now he's a floating baby. But then a giant wolf appears behind him and tries to chomp down on him. But the barrier is strong enough to hold it off. Since he is safe, he thinks of a plan of attack and forms several barriers to attack the wolf. But the barriers aren't able to do much on their own. So he switches tactics and starts chucking trees at the problem. But the wolf still manages to get up. So he brings out the big guns and prepares to drop an island on it. The wolf knows it's outmatched when the baby starts chucking islands at it and decides to give up. Later, the wolf apologizes for trying to eat him. She just wanted to regain some magic power, but she didn't know he would start throwing land at her. He tries to respond, but he is still a baby, so he can't talk at all. He thinks of a way to solve the problem and creates a barrier that can create sound and puts it in his throat so that he can talk through it. He greets the wolf, and she asks who he is, and what he is doing in the forest as a baby. He introduces himself as Hart and tells her that he was abandoned by the palace since they thought his magic power was too low. But the wolf sees that he has power that far exceeds the limits of a human being. She deduces that he must be the reincarnation of the demon lord, while he is actually just a shut-in. He plays along and declares himself as the demon lord. The wolf is now terrified and accepts her death willingly, but he doesn't want to kill her. He just doesn't want her to eat him. She is moved by this generosity in sparing her life, and swears to serve him loyally for the rest of her life. Hart just wants to be done with this and agrees with her and calls her Flay so that he can leave. But as he is floating away, she calls him back and informs him that a contract has been created between them since he named her Flay. While he is trying to explain that he didn't mean to create a contract, a problem arises, and he falls to the ground. He hasn't had anything to drink since he was born and is starving. He asks Flay to help him, and she does her best and turns into a human. But she is naked. Hart is embarrassed, so he uses a barrier to make some clothes for Flay. Flay once again tries to provide him with breast milk, but her logic is a little off as she wants to mate with a 2-hour-old baby. Later, Flay apologizes for her harsh behavior, and Hart forgives her. But then someone approaches them from a distance, injured. Flay wants to kill him immediately, but she is stopped by Hart, who wants to at least talk to them first. He creates two barriers that act as communication devices and asks Flay to confront the approacher. The person is a man, and when Flay asks him why he is in the forest, he says he is here to collect the baby. Flay refuses to hand him over, and the man asks why she cares so much. She then proudly exclaims that she is serving the baby. The man is just here to rescue Hart since he is a relative of the king and can't just sit by and let the baby die. He even brought fresh milk for him to drink before he starves to death. Flay is angry that he went up to her since she can't make any milk, but Hart just wants the milk before he starves to death. Flay asks him why he wants to rescue the baby, and he responds that it's because he lost his own child, and he can't just let a baby die in the forest because the king abandoned it. He wants to let the baby live in peace. Flay is moved by the story and starts crying her eyes out, and the man finds her behavior to be strange for a demon, since she has made the baby her master. He makes a deal with her to hire her as a servant so that she can watch over the baby as much as she wants to, and Flay agrees to his terms. They then destroy the cradle to make it look like Hart died in the forest. Then, to make it believable, he rips off Hart's cloth and pours animal blood on it to sell the cover. But Hart still hasn't gotten his milk yet. It has been 9 years since that night, and Hart greets his new family in the morning. They treat him very well, and he loves them dearly. But there is one problem: even though he has been living with them all this time, he is still hated by his little sister, and he didn't even do anything to her. Flay walks in dressed in a maid outfit and prepares to serve the family their breakfast, and surprisingly, the little girl likes Flay a lot, which only rubs salt in the wounds of Hart, who has no idea why she doesn't like him. She asks Flay to play with her later, and she initially refuses, but when Hart orders her to play with the girl, she agrees to the playdate. The girl is ecstatic that she gets to play with Flay, and later she chases Flay in the garden and has a wonderful time. Hart is watching them from a distance and feeling left out. But then his mother comes up to him and tries to cheer him up, telling him that his sister, Charlotte, only avoids him because she doesn't know how to approach boys around her age. So it's not because of anything he has done. After all, she is really attached to Flay. But Hart fears that something worse might be going on. Maybe Charlotte knows that he is actually nearly 30 years old inside and thinks he is a creep. He falls to his knees in defeat, and his mother tries to cheer him up again by suggesting that they go shopping to buy a gift for Charlotte. After all, if there is one way to win over a kid's affection, it's bribery. But shopping is a bit too advanced for someone with absolutely zero social skills. But his mother is adamant that it'll be a good experience for him since he is always in his room, and one day he is going to be the heir to the castle, so he needs to go touch grass. And as his mother, she'll support him all the way. Later, Hart is in his room with a clone of himself right next to him. He contemplates leaving the castle permanently, but if he leaves, he has to take Flay with him, and Charlotte loves Flay, so she would be sad if she left. But if she left Flay behind, she would most likely end herself since her whole purpose in life is to watch over Hart. But if he stays, they are eventually going to put a bunch of responsibility on his shoulders, something he really doesn't want. In the past 9 years, he has been researching the capabilities of his barrier magic, and now he is able to make a clone of himself with it. But the clones still can't talk or move on their own. Just then, his father knocks on his door and asks him to come outside to learn the way of the sword for a bit. Exactly what Hart didn't want: responsibility. His father wants to train him in the way of the sword since he still thinks that Hart's magic power is extremely low. He has to be good at something. So Hart tries to use his research as an excuse, and his father is supportive. But he still wants Hart to at least try the sword. At first, he is supposed to attack, but his father is known as a war hero, so he doesn't expect to be able to get a hit on him. For now, Hart covers himself in a barrier so that he doesn't get hurt badly and then lunges at his dad. He surprises him and ends up smashing his sword on the ground and leaving a pretty big hole. He now takes an attack stance and tells Hart to try avoiding his strike. Hart leaps into the air and dodges it. This is really surprising since normally he would need to be at least level 30 to dodge that strike. Hart does think that it is strange since even when he checked his magic power in a crystal that went up to 3 digits, it still only showed 2. And the highest number ever recorded for a human is set to be 7. So how can he be so strong? His dad brushes it off and is now determined to turn Hart into the best sword user he can be, and Hart can do nothing but go along with it. Later that night, the man is done training Hart and has a chat with his wife. Without Hart's power, he comes to the conclusion that Hart might be part demon. There are records showing that long ago, someone in the royal family clapped some demon cheeks, and now there is a rare chance for members of the royal family to be born with demonic traits. His wife protests that Hart can't be a demon since he doesn't have a horn or tail. But he does have strange power and a demon servant. But these guys are decent parents, they aren't going to abandon Hart like some other baby-throwing people. They want him to be happy. And Charlotte overhears their conversation. This was the end of the first part. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.